actually in front of a bookcase today. Are we proud of me yet? Hi everyone, it's Mackenzie here, and today I will be sharing with you all of the books that are being released in the fall season that I am the most excited for. The way that I categorize fall season is September, October, November. So then once December rolls around, I will make another one of these videos, except it will be winter releases, and that'll be December, January, February, and then I'll do March, and then summer, and then we're back to fall. I am so excited for so many different books that are coming out, and there's like no one to talk to about it, so I've decided I'm just going to start making videos every couple months to talk about the books coming out in any given season and which ones I am most excited to read. Now, there are a lot of books that I'm going to try to get through in a very short amount of time in this video, so some of them I might read you the full synopsis, some of them I might just give you a brief overview of what it's about in my own words, and some of them I might not even tell you what it's about. I might just tell you why it interested me in the first place, but I will include a link in the description down below to this shelf of mine on Goodreads. It's my most anticipated releases shelf. Big shocker. I have way too many tabs open and it's making my Chromebook run way too slow right now. I'm going to try to prop it up so that I'm not looking down the whole time. Maybe that'll be easier. Who knows? Okay, funny story. I actually got interrupted when I tried to film this video yesterday, so we're gonna try again today. Since I already did the intro, I'm just going to jump right into the books. Pretty sure the order I read these in will be the same order of when they come out. So we are going to start out with Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. I honestly don't even know too much about this. It's a novella, it's horror. Stephen Graham Jones is a very well-known horror author. The reason I thought that this would be fun is because it's literally just a novella about mannequins that come to life in a store, and it reminded me a lot of the first episode of the new Doctor Who, so the 2005 series with Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor. Like the very first episode, the mannequins in stores come to life, and so it just gave me those kind of vibes, so I had to add it to this list. The next book I have is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. This is a YA fantasy. I think it will be perfect to read around Halloween time because it's about bringing ghosts from the dead. This follows the main character Yadriel, who is trans. I think he's trans. He might be non-binary or something, but I'm pretty sure he's trans, and his family does not accept his gender, and so in order to prove himself as a true brujo, which would be a male witch, he summons a spirit from the grave, and it just so happens that the spirit he summons happens to be the school bully that recently died, and I'm not exactly sure what happens after that. I think there might be a male-male romance. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure it was hinted at. I don't know. That's that book for you. The next book is We Are Not Free by Tracy Chee. This, I also don't really know much of the plot. I just know it's about 14 teenagers living in an internment camp because they are second-generation Japanese American citizens, and they are living in an internment camp, and I think it just follows their struggles and their drive for freedom, so I'm excited for that. Next up is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I added this to my list because it's basically pitched as Knives Out if it were a book, and so it's sort of this young girl suddenly inherits all of this money that some super rich, wealthy patriarch of a family left to her in his will. So he died, but the thing is, she doesn't know who he is. She's literally never met him. She's never interacted with him. She's never heard of him, but he left her all this money for some reason. And so in order to get the money, she has to go spend time in this house that he lived in, where the rest of his family is obviously still living. And so it's basically Knives Out. Next up is A Rogue of One's Own by Evie Dunmore. And gonna be perfectly honest, I don't typically pick up historical romance. It just doesn't appeal to me. The only reason that this is on my most anticipated list, honestly, the only reason this is on my TBR at all, is because back in March, I read Bringing Down the Duke by Evie Dunmore, and this is the second book in that series, and I just really liked Bringing Down the Duke, so I'm excited to see what Evie Dunmore does next with the same characters. Next up, we have Sources Say by Laurie Goldstein. The reason I added this is because it sounds just like The Politician, only a little more realistic. The Politician on Netflix, starring Ben Platt. I loved the show. It was great. I loved the whole election aspect of the show and the constant campaigning against each other and strategic decisions with the school's politics. And so this is basically that. These two exes, so they were in a relationship and they split up, and now they are both running for the same position in office of their school. I think it's class president. I'm not positive though, but they're both running against each other, and different scandals break out at the school. They deal with different social issues. I think it'll be really fun to read. Next is Charming as a Verb by Ben Felipe. This follows Henry, who is a first-generation Haitian American citizen. He is in high school and he is running his own dog walking business, so he walks the dogs for his wealthy neighbors. I'm pretty sure it takes place in New York. That's why everyone's so rich and needs their dogs walked. And there is this overly intense girl in his class at school named Corinne, and she discovers the secret behind his dog walking organization. It's literally just him walking dogs. But I think she discovers that it's not quite all it seems to be, and so they sort of strike up an agreement that she will not say anything about that if he helps her change her image at school. And so the two work together, but I think it starts to turn into more of a friendship and then maybe a relationship. That's what's hinted at us within the summary. So I'm really excited to read this one, especially because it takes place in New York. I love New York City, and so I am always looking for books and movies and TV shows that take place in New York. The next book is The Scapegracers by Hannah Abigail Clark. I don't even know the plot. I'm just going to read you the first sentence of the synopsis because this is what sold me. Ready? An outcast teenage lesbian witch finds her coven hidden amongst the popular girls in her school and performs some seriously badass magic in the process. I mean, if that doesn't sell you on this book, I don't know what does. Maybe the cover is really pretty too, so that might also sell you on this book, but I know I'm sold. The next book is Piranesi by Susanna Clark. This is one of those books that everyone is always like, why are you reading that? Because it's just so weird. If you don't know, I love weird books. I do read a lot of the mainstream books that different booktubers and bookstagrammers and reviewers and publishers are always talking about, but I also love just the bizarre, strange books. If you watched my last book haul, you'll probably see a few titles in there that you may have never heard of because they're just strange. But that always appeals to me. And so this book, Piranesi by Susanna Clark, seems very strange. I mean, the cover for one has like a satyr goat. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it looks like a satyr or a fawn. And the plot is basically, there's this, is it a guy? I don't even know if he's a human. Piranesi, is the character's name, lives in a house that is not an ordinary building. Its rooms are infinite, its corridors endless, its walls are lined with thousands upon thousands of statues, each one different from all the others. Within the labyrinth of halls, an ocean is imprisoned, waves thunder up staircases, rooms are flooded in an instant, but Piranesi is not afraid. He understands the tides as he understands the pattern of the labyrinth itself. So basically, there's Piranesi living in this house that is just like bizarre as all get out. And he finds out that there might be someone else in the house. Like someone else might be hiding out there or living with him and he doesn't know it. And I don't know, that just sounds really strange and I'm totally here for it. Of course, if you watched my mid-year book freakout tag, you know that my absolute most anticipated release for the second half of 2020 is Mother for Dinner by Shalom Auslander. This is a book. How do I describe it? We follow the protagonist whose name is Seventh. His name is Seventh because he was the seventh child to be born in his family. So all of his siblings are also named like first, second, third, fourth, fifth. How many are there? Ooh, I don't know if I feel like finding it right now. But there are quite a few of the children. And they are a family of cannibals. They seem to be very ethical cannibals, or like morally conscious cannibals. But when their mom dies, her last words are, "Eat me." So it is now Seventh's job to get all of his siblings to come back home so that they can eat their mother together. The problem is his siblings are now scattered across the country. You know, they're not all living in the same place. Some of them don't want to go to the trouble to come home just to eat their mom. I think one of them is vegan now. One of them turned religious and so like doesn't agree with it anymore. Like there are all of these obstacles standing in the way, and it's Seventh's job to bring them all together. And I just think like that's such a heartwarming story, but it's about cannibals. And so like I told you guys, I like the weird books. I like the strangeness. Next is The Resurrection of Fulgencio Ramirez. Again, not a lot of plot. It's basically West Side Story, or if you don't know West Side Story, it's basically Romeo and Juliet in the 1950s. So like think The Outsiders meets Romeo and Juliet. And that's basically West Side Story, which is why I used that analogy first. I just really like this cover, and I'm all for Romeo and Juliet retellings. So I think this will be fun. Next is Vampires Never Get Old, Tales with Fresh Bite. Edited by Zoraida Cordova. This is, why do I always do that? After I give you the title and the author, I'm always like, like, I don't know why I do that. But anyway, this is a short story collection. It's written by lots of different authors. I don't have a list in front of me right now, but it's written by a lot of different authors, some of which I've read stuff from before, so I'm definitely excited for it. But each story is about vampires. And it's supposed to be like vampires, but in a more modern world. And so it's sort of like a fresh take on it. Get it? Tales with Fresh Bite. Get it? Yeah, it's... If you watched my last book haul, you might have heard me mention that I don't really read vampire books or like werewolves or zombies and all that. I don't know. The typical like horror characters like that, I just don't tend to pick up because I don't know why. I'm pretentious and think I'm better than that, I guess. Who even knows? So I'm trying to widen my scope, broaden my horizon, and I think that Vampires Never Get Old is a great way to do that, because what better way to get more into vampires than by reading a collection of modern short stories about vampires? So that's the plan. Next is Early Departures by Justin A. Reynolds. This follows a boy named Jamal, whose best friend Q has just died. There is a new technology that allows Q to be brought back to life for, I think it's 24 hours. No, a few weeks. My bad. My bad. The technology allows Q to be reanimated for a few weeks before he dies again permanently. And so, Q does not know that he is dead. When he gets reanimated, he has no idea. And his mom doesn't want to ruin his last few weeks on Earth, and so she doesn't let anyone tell him the truth. So he's just going through life thinking that everything's normal. But Jamal is the protagonist, and he doesn't tell Q that Q is dead, or that Jamal actually tried to save him. Especially because the two haven't been talking for 2 years. I don't think it states why, and so I think there's going to be a lot of dramatic backstory and friendship and rekindling lost friendships, and I'm really excited for this book. I say that about all of them, honestly. I mean, obviously, if they're my most anticipated releases, I'm going to be excited for each and every one. So, I don't know why I keep saying that. Next, we have Dear Justice by Nick Stone. This is the sequel to Dear Martin, which is a book I read back at the beginning of July, and I loved it. It's now in my top 5 favorite books of all time because it was so impactful. And so Dear Justice is told from the perspective of one of the sort of side characters in Dear Martin. And I love Nick Stone's writing. I love her stories. I think her characters are so relatable and realistic. And so I just cannot wait to read this one. Then we have Under Shifting Stars by Alexandra Latos. This is about 2 twin sisters that couldn't be more different from each other, grieving together over the death of their younger brother. So when their brother dies, they both obviously are hit very hard by the loss, and they deal with it in very different ways. One of them, does it list their names? I don't even care. One of them is determined to go to public school because I'm pretty sure they're homeschool for the beginning part of their lives, and the other one is dealing with their gender fluidity. And so it seems like a very coming of age while dealing with grief sort of book. And I mean, I read Dear Edward, I read Everything I Never Told You, and so I guess grief books are just sort of my thing sometimes, so I'm definitely going to check this one out. Next is How to Walk on Water and Other Stories by Rachel Swearingen. This is just a short story collection. I can't even tell you why I added it. I think just some of the one-sentence synopses of the stories just sound so fascinating. And the cover is also pretty, so I'm trying to read more short story collections because I read Get in Trouble by Kelly Link earlier in August, and I loved it so much, and so I'm trying to get on board with more speculative short stories in general. Next is The Ghost Variations, 100 Stories by Kevin Brockmeyer. It's exactly what it sounds. It's just a book of short stories about all types of ghosts. And I want to read more horror and more short stories, so there you have it. Then we have 5 Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richards. This is a thriller. When Mira flies home to spend Christmas with her mother in Pittsburgh, a record-breaking blizzard results in a canceled layover. Desperate to get to her grief-ridden mother in the wake of a family death, Mira hitches a ride with a group of friendly college kids who were on her initial flight. As the drive progresses and weather conditions become more treacherous, oh my god, Mira realizes that the 4 other passengers she's stuck in the car with don't actually know one another. Soon, they're not just dealing with heavy snowfall and ice, slick roads, but the fact that somebody will stop at nothing to ensure their trip ends in a deadly disaster. That sounds so thrilling. I am so hyped for that to come out. So, I haven't been paying attention, but I think we've strayed into October territory over here. And I think we might even be getting close to November. So sorry for not explaining the dates every time. Next is The Blaze Wrath Games by Amparo Ortiz. And it's basically just pitched as How to Train Your Dragon meets Quidditch Through the Ages in this debut fantasy set in an alternate contemporary world in which dragons and their riders compete in an international sports tournament. And that's all I needed to know, which means it's all you need to know. That just sounds so cool. I also love the pink and blue color scheme on the cover of this book. Gorgeous. The next one I briefly skimmed the synopsis, so I'm gonna read it to you. The 30 Names of Night by Zen Jokhader. I'm so sorry. 5 years after a suspicious fire killed his ornithologist mother, a closeted Syrian-American trans boy sheds his birth name and searches for a new one. He has been unable to paint since his mother's ghost has begun to visit him each evening. As his grandmother's sole caretaker, he spends his days cooped up in their apartment, avoiding his neighborhood masjid, his estranged sister, and even his best friend, who also happens to be his longtime crush. The only time he feels truly free is when he slips out at night to paint murals on buildings in the once thriving Manhattan neighborhood known as Little Syria. One night oh my god, this is a long synopsis. One night he enters the abandoned community house and finds the tattered journal of a Syrian-American artist named Layla Z, who dedicated her career to painting the birds of North America. blah, 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 blah. Realizing that he isn't and has never been alone, he has the courage to officially claim a new name, Nadir, an Arabic name meaning rare. It basically sounds like here's this guy who paints murals. He is trying to find his identity and reclaim himself as a new person in the wake of his mother's death. And I think birds are going missing, and he's going to do something about it. I don't know. This synopsis is really long and sort of convoluted to me. But the cover, gorgeous. It reminds me a lot of Angels in America by Tony Kushner. I don't know who wrote that. I can't think of it wait, it's behind me. Never mind. It reminds me a lot of Angels in America by Tony Kushner. See, it's good that I'm in front of a bookshelf because those are my plays. So it reminds me a lot of this book cover. Guess who got interrupted again? I am genuinely sorry if the angle keeps changing. It's because each day I have to set my ring light and tripod back up to figure it out. So I'm very sorry if I'm closer or farther back than I have been in previous clips, or if it's at a slightly different direction. I don't know. I'm trying my best over here. I feel awkward filming myself when my parents are in the house, and so I usually wait until they're either outside swimming or like out to dinner somewhere together, and I have the whole house to myself so I can just talk about books as loudly as I want. But it doesn't happen very often, and it doesn't happen for very long stretches of time, so I kind of just have to work with what I have. Where did we leave off? Okay, Here the Whole Time by Vitor Martins. I'm so sorry. Some of these names, I apologize if I'm messing them up. The charm and humor of To All the Boys I've Loved Before meets Dumplin' in this body-positive YA love story between two boys who must spend 15 days living with each other over school break. I mean, what doesn't sound great about that? Boys need body positivity too, you guys. Boys need to feel confident with themselves. And so I'm really excited for it. This book is here the whole time, but I'm here for this book. Wow, that was really cheesy, I'm sorry. This next book, it's called At Night All Blood is Black by David Diop. How to explain this? So there's this man named Alpha, right? Yeah, Alpha. He is from Senegal. He's never left his village before, but he suddenly finds himself fighting as a soldier with the French army during World War I. When his close friend in the same regiment is seriously injured, he begs Alpha to kill him and spare him the pain of a long and agonizing death. But Alpha is unable to do this. He can't bring himself to murder his best friend like that. And so the guy has a really long, slow, painful death, and Alpha regrets it. And so in order to avenge his friend's death, he sneaks into the German camp one night and kills one of the soldiers there, cuts off his hand, and brings it back to the camp with him. And I guess this just makes him feel so great, and he did so well by his friend, that he continues to do this. So every night he sneaks into the German camp, kills one of the soldiers, cuts off his hand, brings it back with him. So he has this just growing collection of hands back at their camp, and all the other soldiers start to go okay, I mean, it was one thing to do it once or twice, but it's another to keep doing this every night. And so I'm pretty sure eventually they start to circulate rumors that he is a sorcerer, a soul eater, and plans are hatched to get Alpha away from the front and to separate him from his growing collection of hands. But how does one reason with the demon, and how far will Alpha go to make amends to his dead friend? It sounds like it could be magical realism or speculative in some capacity, or that could just be mob mentality. Who knows? I'm excited. Next, we have Sasha Masha by Agnes Berinsky. And I don't know, this cover and the title, it just makes me so excited. This looks like it's gonna be such a wholesome book, but also maybe a little sad. But I'm just so excited for it. Transgender author Agnes Berinsky deftly explores gender identity and queer romance in this heart-wrenchingly honest debut novel. Alex feels like he is in the wrong body. His skin feels strange against his bones. And then comes Tracy, who thinks he's adorably awkward, who wants to kiss him, who makes him feel like a real boy. But it is not quite enough. Something is missing. As Alex grapples with his identity, he finds himself trying on dresses and swiping on lipstick in the quiet of his bedroom. He meets Andre, a gay boy who is beautiful and unafraid to be who he is. Slowly, Alex begins to realize maybe his name isn't Alex at all. Maybe it's Sasha Masha. I don't know, it sounds like it's gonna make my heart feel things. Next up, we have One by One by Ruth Ware. I have only read one of Ruth Ware's books. I know she's like a big name in thrillers. Hello. I know she's a big name in thrillers, but I've only read one of her books, and that was her most recent, The Turn of the Key. I only read it because I saw many more good reviews than I did bad reviews, and I got the audiobook from the library, so I was like, why not? And I liked it. It wasn't really my thing, but it was so undeniably well written, and like the plot was well structured and the idea was well executed that, I mean, I really want to check out her next book. I don't know if I'll backtrack and read her old ones, but I definitely want to keep reading her newer ones because people say that they get better as they go along. Kayla over at the Literary Dead Book Club is also reading this book for the month of November, I think. Maybe. It's either October or November. I'm not really sure. But I think it's October. But for one of the months, she is reading this book. And so I wanted to read along with that book club. I didn't even tell you anything about it. It's a thriller, obviously. It's about these people that are, I'm not sure how many of them there are. Let me look. Do I care enough to find out? I don't know. A group of co-workers at some company go on a team bonding sort of excursion to a secluded cabin in the mountains, and they get snowed in. And I think they start to go missing, or they start to die off, like one at a time. And so it sounds interesting, I have to admit. I don't know if I would have picked it up on my own, but it sounds interesting. The next book, it's been on my TBR for so long that I genuinely don't even really remember what it's about. It's called The Orchard by David Hopen. And like I said, not really sure what it's about. It doesn't give away too much in the description. It keeps it pretty vague. But basically, it's pitched as being inspired by The Secret History by Donna Tartt and If We Were Villains by ML Rio. Neither of which I've read at this point when I'm filming the video. But they both sound like books that I know I'm gonna love because dark academia, such a good aesthetic, despite all of its inherent problems. It's an aesthetic that I really love. I love friend groups, especially when they turn dangerous. So, not even sure what it's about, but it has a pretty cool cover, and I'm excited to read it. Believe it or not, that was actually the last book that I have to share with you. I wasn't expecting to leave it on such an average note, you know? I mean, I barely gave you any information about that book. You know, I use a ring light, but is it working? I mean, do I even look any better than I do in any of my other videos? I really don't think so. You know, I look at the camera right now and I think it looks way better, but then I watch these video clips back later and I'm like, why do I look like that? Why is my face so gaunt? Why do I look so sallow? Like, I don't look alive at all. I don't know. I try, you guys. I know that the quality of these videos sucks, but I really, really try. Anyway, moving on from that tangent, those were all of the books that I am most excited about that are coming out in September, October, and November of 2020. There are a few books that I sort of skipped over because I didn't know how to explain them, or I'm excited for them, but for reasons that I don't know how to articulate, or I didn't feel like reading through the entire synopsis because maybe it was really long, or maybe it didn't actually sound that exciting when I said it out loud. But for whatever reason, there are a few, maybe like 4 or 5 books that I didn't mention, but are on my shelf. So like I said, I will link my most anticipated releases shelf on Goodreads in the description, so you can click on that and you can see all of the books. You can find all of the ones that I talked about and see all of the ones that I maybe skipped over. You will also be able to see all of the ones for December and onward, so for the coming year as well, 2021. But I will do more videos in the future talking about those books, again, breaking it up by season. So that was this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm excited for all of these books to come out. I hope maybe now you're excited for all of these books to come out. I feel like I have a very eclectic taste in books, you know? There are definitely fewer genres that I avoid than there are genres that I read from. I am just very open to a lot of different books and a lot of different styles. So I think this is a good place to get a wide range of recommendations, you know? Go to some people for romance, go to some people for sci-fi fantasy. Come to me if you want everything, because I have a whole mix of everything on my Goodreads shelves. I hope that you have found some new books to maybe get excited about. You can pre-order a lot of these, and that really helps drive up sales for the authors. Yeah, not much else to say. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. As always, I will see you next time. Bye.